Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Eswatini can no longer export beef to its largest markets, Taiwan and several European Union countries, following a devastating outbreak of foot-and-mouth disease. This comes as a major blow to the country's economy, with the beef industry contributing over 2% to the national gross domestic product, according to the International Trade Administration. In response, government has allocated 40 million emalangeni to contain and eradicate the disease. The big question remains how long before the country can resume exports. Business journalist Nelson Wendlamandla spoke to Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Sydney Simelane, who shared the expected timelines for full recovery and return to international trade.
PS, welcome to Market View. Last month, the Ministry of Agriculture reported that the country currently has cases of foot-and-mouth disease, which is such a huge blow, especially for the beef industry, the companies that are exporting. Can you first explain to us the current status of the disease in the country?
The status of the foot-and-mouth disease in the country is that on the 12th of May, it was discovered that some cattle in the Eswatini region, especially around the Mukakweni, were found to have indications that they have a foot-and-mouth disease. So we immediately took samples, blood samples, and we went for testing. And when the results came back, we found that 5 of those cattle tested positive for foot-and-mouth disease. Now, this is a big challenge because what it means is that according to some of the regulations and rules that we use for selling or exporting beef in the country, they require that immediately we discover that there is a foot-and-mouth disease in the country, all sales come to a stop. We are very sad to say that to the business community, especially those who are exporting out of the country, that they had to stop there and there the exports, and we had to continue with our surveillance exercise and check what is going on. One can also state that after finding foot-and-mouth disease in the Mukakweni area, we tried to be careful within the Eswatini area and find other possible areas where the disease could have gone to. It is a fast-moving disease, but we were really surprised that in about a week or so, the disease had actually been found in Komintaba, in Lavumisa. So that was a very fast speed, which indicates to us that possibly some cattle were taken from the area where the FMD was, and then they were transferred to Komintaba. We're still trying to analyze what happened there, but we realized that it's a very, very serious situation. One can also say that in order for us to contain the disease so that it doesn't spread throughout the country, it is very important that we set up check-out points where we will investigate further.
The beef industry, PS, plays a huge role in economic development. We've seen big companies like Eswatini Meats exporting to countries outside like Taiwan. How have they been affected by this disease? Have you talked to them as a ministry?
Thank you for that question. This is one of the issues that we have been trying to work hard on. Immediately you discover that there's foot-and-mouth disease in the country. According to the European Union regulations, you have to stop exports. So right now, as we speak, Eswatini is at a halt. They cannot export to Europe. They export to the United Kingdom, they export to the Netherlands, and then they export to Taiwan as well. So, but all those are using the EU regulations, which stipulate that as soon as FMD is found in the country, then they have to stop the exports. It's a very, very sad situation. When we spoke to them, they have actually got to a position where they thinking of laying off some staff. It's a very sad situation. We want to try our best to contain this disease so that they are back to operation within the shortest time possible. Although shortest time possible to us would probably be 6-7 months or so, but we want to make sure that this disease does not spread to the other parts of the country, because once we have that situation, it will be very, very difficult for us to recover, because it means we have to wait until all the affected or infected cattle die or are killed so that we start afresh as a country.
I received information, PS, that last week you were not in the country attending a meeting with the World Animal for Health Organization. I want to know if maybe you came back with some sort of support, or have you reported this issue that we're currently having in the country?
This is an annual meeting of the World Organization for Animal Health, which we attended with the director. Here we have to report if there is an incident of foot and mouth disease in the country, and at the same time we have to try and get the latest technologies or ideas from them how we can be assisted in handling this disease. We were very lucky that we were also able to meet a team from Botswana. They come from Botswana Vaccine Institute. They develop vaccinations for livestock, in particular vaccinations for foot and mouth disease. So we engaged with them, and we tried to make sure that they will be visiting us in the country. Early in this week, they will be coming into the kingdom to view the situation, and then from there, they will be designing specific vaccinations for the kind or strain of this virus that we are dealing with. It is very important that when we use vaccines, these vaccines deal exactly with the strain or the virus that we are dealing with, so that it makes a lot of impact, and then the solution comes quicker.
Are you currently monitoring abattoirs, PS, because some of us just buy meat from the different butcheries? So I'm just curious to know what sort of monitoring is there for abattoirs?
Abattoirs and butcheries are still under strict control. This is just the normal control that we do. We take samples from them, and we examine the meat that they produce, and we do the tests, and we want to make sure that this disease does not escape. Although we are very much aware that foot and mouth disease is not a zoonotic disease, which means that it cannot be transferred from animals to human, but we really want to make sure that people have a choice. They can eat the meat on their choice, but for us, we will not recommend that, because some leftovers may be exposed to other animals like dogs, like wild pigs, or even the homegrown pigs. But the problem with that is that it will then spread the disease. So we are still putting further controls with our abattoirs and butchery owners to make sure that they don't sell meat that is infected with the foot and mouth disease.
What are the signs of a cow that has foot and mouth?
The symptoms of a cow that has foot and mouth disease are sort of, they follow the name of the disease basically. If you look in the mouth, especially in the tongue, it will have lesions, it will have some growth in there, which after about 3 days it will just burst, and then it will cause wounds. Now, because of those wounds, then the cow will not be able to eat, and it will just spend most of its time lying on the ground. Secondly, you can check between the hooves. What you will realize is that those blisters will also be there, which after about 3 days again will burst, and then they develop these wounds. So the cattle or the cows, you will see them by limping, and they will be oozing saliva in their mouths because of this infection. So those are the two main observations that you'll be able to see.
PS, foot and mouth is deadly, and the ministry has always known that South Africa has foot and mouth. You've always known that you had to protect Eswatini from getting foot and mouth. Would you say as a ministry you have done enough to avert the current situation, to ensure that Eswatini doesn't find itself in this situation that we are in right now?
Okay. Yes, this is a very difficult situation. In order for us to be able to say we have covered every possible means to make sure that we cannot get this disease, it's a very, very complicated process. First of all, we need to make sure that all our international boundaries are up and working. Now, if you look at the Lubombo region, where the disease was very popular in the past, we have what we call cordon fences. These are fences that we install inside the boundary of the country. They are about 100 meters from the international boundary. We wish we could have those fences throughout the boundary of the country, but clearly for reasons of resources and other challenges, we may not be able to do that. So what we tend to do is that we put people who will be guarding or walking around these cordon fences or the international boundaries to make sure that we don't have animals coming from our neighboring countries or our animals going to neighboring countries and coming back. If you realize once you have your cattle stolen in the country and taken to the neighboring countries, whenever they are found, we take them to our quarantines in the country and they stay there for a period of 15 to 30 days just to make sure that they don't come back with the disease. So it's a very complicated situation, but we definitely try our best to make sure that our veterinary assistants are aware and check these cattle on a regular basis in the deep tanks, just to make sure that even if the disease comes, we catch it at a very early stage.
Thank you so much, PS, for joining us on Market View today. It's really encouraging to see the efforts that government is putting forward to ensure that the foot and mouth disease is really eradicated in the country. We will be monitoring and following closely, PS, so that we continue to inform the local beef industry, local farmers on this disease, and ensuring that Eswatini are completely eradicated.